Hello and welcome to Grace Unscripted, where we share stories of the people in and around Grace Church without any script, just real, raw conversations about life change through Jesus. I am your host, Audrey Wallace. Today's conversation is with Paul Thompson. Now, if you haven't listened to his wife Stephanie's yet that we just put out, you might want to pause, listen to hers first. But honestly, their stories are so uniquely different. It's the same. So much of it is intertwined. In fact, probably half of their lives is together. But just to hear it from the different angles that each of them comes to. And what stood out to me with Paul's story is one phrase that I'll share with you. He says, how could you doubt it? There are so many tangible answers to prayer, dangerous prayers even, okay, I prayed this prayer and God answered it the next day, and not what I was expecting, but here we are. And I, within that, will be faithful. I will continually submit to you, God, is really the story that I heard from Paul here. So listen to him as he unfolds everything that's leading him to today when God is doing really big and new things in his life. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
So for context, anybody listening, I just spent an hour with your wife.
Yeah.
And if you are listening to this and haven't heard Stephanie's episode yet, you can listen to that as well. You choose the order, but now we get to focus on Paul. And I'm so excited to see how things intertwine and to hear your perspective on everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So thanks for doing this. I know not always easy to share your life story in front of a microphone.
Yeah, it's a new experience, but we've had a decent amount of times where we've explained who we are to people and kind of what we're doing. So, hopefully I won't make things up. But
And you've had a number of new experiences recently, so just add this to the list.
Absolutely, right.
But we're not going to start there. We're going to start at the beginning. Did you grow up in the Akron area?
I did, yeah. My parents lived on the east side of Akron. They actually still live in that house.
Oh, wow.
It's over 40 years now that they've been there. I grew up pretty close to East High School, but I was homeschooled. Actually, since second grade on.
Okay.
The first 2 years, kindergarten and first grade, kindergarten went to Chapel Hill Christian School, and then first grade I went to Fun Story Cathedral of Tomorrow, which some people probably don't remember Rex Humbard. He was a televangelist back in the day.
Rex Humbard?
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah. I guess when you're on TV, you got to have one of those names.
Yeah.
But the building is actually now Ernest Angley, his Grace Cathedral over there in Cuyahoga Falls.
Yeah.
So in first grade, it was a Christian school, I guess. My parents wanted to check it out. And so I still have memories of running in that circular building for gym class, down all of those halls. But then after that, my mom was like, no, we're just going to homeschool.
Okay.
So,
and do you have siblings that also were homeschooled? Or?
Yeah, my two sisters are both younger, and my youngest sister was homeschooled her entire school, but my middle sister went to that same school for kindergarten while I was in first grade. And then after that, she was also homeschooled for the rest of the time. So I also stopped being homeschooled in my, junior year of high school, where I started going to college full time.
Wow.
So the last 2 years of high school, they called it post-secondary education. At that time, it's something else these days, I think. But because they had opened it up to charter schools, which is what our homeschool co-op kind of was.
Okay.
Basically, my mom could decide what the rules were around how many college classes I took. So I have friends who were in high school that also did the same thing, but they only did a class or two at Akron U or at Kent or something. But my mom was like, I don't care, just take as many as you want. So I took full loads as a high schooler out at Akron U. And it was very interesting being that young in college classes.
You went on campus.
Yep.
You drove yourself there.
And I was a little bit nervous because of being in college. And so that first semester, I locked my keys in my car 2 or 3 times. I ran my battery dead a couple of times because I'm 16 years old. I'm trying to get to class on time and, make sure I've got my homework and all these, these big college people, that are older and wiser and
Wow.
all of those things just kind of, mess with your head a little bit. And I did fine in school, but it was just all those extra stuff that kind of made that semester interesting.
Yeah. So obviously you were a commuter, not like living in the
Yes.
dorms or anything. But did
Yeah.
you get involved in any like activities at college?
I didn't. No,
You
for
just
those 2
class and
years, it was
leave?
just classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to be like as normal a high schooler as I could under those circumstances.
Sure.
Already was not a normal, kid in my youth group because of like
Whoa.
there's maybe I don't know 4 or 5 of us that were homeschooled
Okay.
growing up. So already you kind of get a little bit of that. Like, why don't you just go to public school?
Right.
And now I'm in college.
Yeah.
So add all that together. It was like I just want to go hang out with my friends.
Sure.
Not
Yeah.
like play intramural sports or
Go to Glee Club or
Right,
whatever,
yep.
Yeah. Interesting. So my husband has a similar, like, was homeschooled and did some college stuff in there, but his class at his church was kind of his class, if that makes sense. Is that how
Yeah.
your life was? Like, you still had those friendships? I don't know. He went to
Yeah.
homecomings and stuff like that with kids from his group. What was that like for
youth
you
group
socially?
was kind of like
Yes.
that social
Yeah.
environment for me. I didn't ever really go to like a homecoming or
Okay.
anything. I had friends and opportunities to do that, but even now, like if we go to a wedding reception, like I am not the like
Not
go
your
out and
vibe.
dance person. So like that just wasn't something that I was super interested
Mm-hmm.
in doing. But yeah, I had a few close friends in high school that I'm still friends with now that they were homeschooled for part of the time or also like while we were in high school and then just other kids. The church that I grew up in was a little bit bigger, not as big as Grace is now, but we had a couple hundred kids in our youth group.
Whoa.
So there was enough that, plenty of social activities and people to talk to, hang out with, go to, sleepovers, whatever, stuff like that.
So that was part of your life from the beginning, meaning going to church, having God as
Absolutely,
a foundation of your home. Okay.
My dad came to Christ when he was older, like in his 20s, I think. My mom grew up in a Christian home, but then when they got married, they had decided, like, we're going to be in church as often as we can, and we want that for our kids. So they had established that pretty early. So, and this was also like the 80s and the 90s, so when you were sick, like you still went to church. We had to be really sick not to go. And then my mom and dad also modeled a lot of service for us. And so my mom worked in the nursery for a long time. My dad was the sound guy at the church for as long as I can remember, actually. And we were there pretty much every Sunday, every Wednesday, and then a lot of time during the week also, if there were other things going on or some of those activities that my parents were serving in, if those had things during the week, we were often there. So, yeah, church was a very big part of my life growing up. I learned to play drums by being there before service because my dad had to do the sound for like choir practice, and so I would go into our youth area and just like start making racket until I could actually play a beat.
Just self-taught.
Yep, just banging around on them for a while.
Like a classic homeschooler. Just
Yep.
give them the tools and they'll figure it out. Give them tools and time.
And boardroom.
Exactly.
We're there, half hour, 45 minutes early, and, there's only so much wandering in the church you can do, once you know every nook and cranny.
Right.
And, so, yeah, we were there a lot. And I liked it. I mean, it wasn't, I don't ever remember feeling like, why are we doing this? Like, why do we, all of that kind of emotions. It was just what we did. It was just normal for us. And so, learning what we could. Because then I would also have some friends that would also show up early if their parents were doing things and stuff like that.
Do you remember in your youth, or any time in your life, I should say, but I actually accepted Christ as my savior at this time, even though he was like, was there a moment like that for you?
Yeah, real young, like I was 5. And that's also like kind of inspired me since like our son is 5 now of you kind of walk that balance of how much does he understand versus like, okay, well, I remember when I was 5, I understood enough to do this. And so he's got to be able to do that too. And so not like to gloss over that sort of stuff with him. But we were in Sunday school, and every week the teacher would pray, a sinner's prayer after service, or not service, but, the program or whatever. And I do remember like one Sunday just being like, I'm going to pray it. And I probably didn't understand completely as a 5-year-old, but I do still remember, this is almost 40 years ago now, of walking out of there with, joy and a smile on my face as, a little 5-year-old. And that's the moment that I point to of, when I decided.
Yeah.
But then obviously there's so much more learning and growing
Absolutely.
of what all of that means.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So 5-year-old Paul walks out of church with a smile on his face and a skip in his step. And then you go through high school, you're in college. And is there any times that you like had hit a low or like just your face was challenged or anything like that throughout those times?
Yeah. I mean, probably like if we skip forward even to like graduating college, I had like my first job at a Christian camp. I was a Bible major in college. And
hold on, because I know Stephanie's story. You did a University of Akron during post-secondary, but then you went to a different university.
Yeah, so I went to Evangel University in Springfield, Missouri, and so did Stephanie. And it was the only college that I applied to. And
how did you hear about something like this? Because based on the timeline you told me, the internet and Google was not hip to everybody quite yet.
Right. Yep. Yeah, my mom actually went there for a year, and she came home. She didn't finish her degree, but Evangel is one of the schools affiliated with the Assemblies of God, and so I don't know why I picked that one over like going to the beach because they had one in Florida.
Oh, no way!
Maybe I should have gone somewhere warm instead of the middle of nowhere. But God knew what He was doing with that. So like I don't even remember visiting there. It was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go there. And then my mom and my grandma drove me. It's like 12 hours to drop me off at college, and they drove back. And I had a great experience there. I met Stephanie. We didn't really like talk or hang out a lot, but knew of each other. And I was living in a girls' dorm. There was one floor that was boys.
Okay.
In the whole building. So we were like the nerds, but it was like, okay, well, all you like jocks, we get to like, be in the girls' dorm. Yeah. So haha. They had strict rules on, like, where you could be and what times and stuff. But so as I got a major in biblical studies, I then was thinking at that time, I was like, well, I don't think I really want to be a pastor. I don't think I want to be a missionary. I can be a scholar, though. Like I like languages, so I was taking biblical Hebrew, and I took it for the 3 years that I was there. Wow. And so I was like, I'll go study this more. Sure. So I applied to Gordon Conwell Seminary that's in Rhode Island. And I was accepted to study ancient languages. Wow. So all like languages that the Bible was written in, but also like contemporary languages for some of those eras. And that summer I got a job at a Christian camp with some friends of mine that I had done Bible quizzing with. So this was another thing growing up. It was called Junior Bible Quiz. There was a bunch of questions, and you would just memorize the questions and the answers, and you would go to a match, be asked those questions, have to like kind of buzz in and answer them and get points for your team, and whoever wins the you get to be the biggest Bible nerd. And so I had a lot of fun with that. I was pretty okay at it. And some of the friends that I had through those matches now worked at a camp, and they needed people. So I didn't have a job lined up for that summer, so I went up there and started working as like a program staff, running like ropes course, doing
cool.
horses, lifeguarding, all of those sort of
Yeah.
things.
I remember going to those camps and thinking the counselors were just the coolest people on earth. So that
Yeah,
was you.
we fake it. But yeah, that was a really cool time. Met a lot of fun people. And you kind of talked about like a low point or something. It's a few more years after this, but like I was in a band with some people.
Drummer?
Yes. And I also played guitar for a long time, and I'm probably a little bit better at the guitar than I am at the drums, but they needed a drummer, and so I was like, okay. And some friends from high school were in the band too. But kind of like all of this, like Bible stuff and being in church and being good at the quizzing and being, in college for 2 years as a high schooler and graduating early, and all of these things were like sources of pride for me. And I let that kind of dominate like my thinking, like I'm smarter than people, like I'm better, like I know more Bible than some pastors maybe, or whatever. And that was spilling over into every area of my life. And so I remember we were doing a band practice one time, and just something like kind of blew up, and our lead singer was the songwriter and stuff, and I, honestly, like to this day, I don't remember what initiated the tension there. It was probably something along the lines of I wanted to play a song one way, and he was like, no, or but it was just it was that pride, like that I know best. This is how I think it should be done, and I'm gonna die on this hill, kind of thing. And he was like, you're gonna be alone forever. Like, if you can't figure this out or figure out how to like dialogue with others or set your pride aside, like you're just gonna blow up every relationship you have, like whether it's friends or romantic, whatever. Like that's just like you gotta get ahead, like you gotta fix this, or whatever. And they all left, and I was like, that guy's dumb. Like that's whatever. But I really like that. That was like bothering me, like you put on that front of that defensiveness of like, well, that person, that's not right.
Right.
They're not telling me what the truth is or whatever. Yeah. But kind of deep down, you sort of know, right?
Yeah.
And I knew like he was right, and needed to take that to God, and the pride that I had needed to come under the direction of Jesus. And so like that's something that I've always had to work on, but that was kind of a pivotal time where I wasn't even aware of it really until that moment, and
really,
that's like how much
you don't
permeated.
think you were aware,
right,
until that friend drew it out for you.
Yeah. Wow. And so now it's, I'm grateful for that moment. Like,
Sure.
Like the band never, I don't think we ever practiced after that.
Wow.
And we went like separate ways, and like it was certainly a moment where like God was using that to kind of like reach into my life and say, you're not all that. And you need to have a constant attention to being humble about anything that's there.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're not very smart and very wise and very knowledgeable about the Bible and very good at drums and very graduated. Like none of that goes away. It's just your posture toward it.
Right.
And I'm just thinking of like, gosh, thanks to that friend, because God opposes the proud.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he protects and sustains and gives and provides to the humble.
Right.
And if two things, one, that friend to share that with you, and for you to have heard it and made a change, because there's probably maybe other blips that God was trying to get to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes his voice comes through a fellow believer.
Right.
And then for you to receive that, instead of throwing up a wall and saying, forget you, you did maybe in the
But not,
moment, but then
cutting toxic out of my life like that. Yeah.
sure, right. This
Maybe,
guy's toxic. I can't be around him.
Right.
Versus you use the word permeate. You let it really contemplate that with the Lord and work it through with fear and trembling and say, show me what I need here.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you told this friend that story?
I'm not sure because him and his wife and kids moved, and I think they're divorced now, and I don't even know where he is.
Yeah.
And I remember going back to them and saying I'm sorry, guys, I realize it's not who I want to be.
Yeah.
I'd like to continue with the band. I'd like to be drumming and be friends with you guys. And they were like, well, we're not really sure we're all going to do this anymore.
Yeah. But even just for that moment, just for that pivot in your life, that band served that purpose.
Yeah, it's kind of just, something coming in and going out. God needed to make that adjustment in a way that I would hear it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Was that in your college age-ish time, or were you a young professional at that time?
Yeah, I was in my probably
early
early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Your timelines are going to be completely off because you're doing your master's at
jumping
12
around,
or whatever. But that
yeah. So I actually ended up not going to seminary at that time because I was at the camp. They ended up offering me a more permanent part-time job.
Nice.
So instead of just working part-time in the summer, I worked part-time all year long. So I had said okay, I'm not going to end up going to study ancient languages anymore. I'm going to work outside here at the camp. And
what a different different kind of study.
I had never really saw myself doing that before. I didn't know that it was something I would really enjoy, but it ended up being some of the best years of my life. I remember being up, we had a giant swing that went over the river. And one time in the winter, we were doing maintenance on it. So I'm 60 feet in the air on this pole. And a bald eagle flies down the river at eye level with me. And I'm like, wow.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Yeah. I was like,
Wow.
That is nuts. And so just really cool experiences like that, being able to interact with people coming down from the Cleveland City Mission. The camp was owned by the City Mission, and so men and women that were going into their rehab program would spend a boot camp week at the camp, and just a phenomenal time of seeing them on day one versus the life change that they experienced on day 7 and being able to be a part of that. All of these things were things I had no idea would be available at a place like that. And I really look back at those times well. But another low point was when they decided at the camp that they were going to lay off everyone. Everyone except for 2 people. They thought, well, we can run this whole thing with 2 people.
Whoa.
We're sure. So our director actually would not let us go, so they also let him go. He was like, I'm not doing that to these people. And so this camp was in Ashtabula County.
Oh, wow.
And so at that point is when I was like, well, I guess I'll move back to Akron. And that's when I got involved with the band and had that moment that we just talked about. But having all of that shift, that's kind of a little bit of the stuff leading up to that is you've got all of that sort of change happening. And then God brings a moment like that. So it ends up being like powerful enough, to make a actual change in your life. Yeah. So by this time I'm probably like, I don't know, 25, something like that. Living back in Akron, still kind of, after the camp, it took a little while to get like another full-time job. And I'm doing various different things, working at the YMCA, because at camp I had learned to be a lifeguard, but also a lifeguard instructor. And so the YMCA, their pools were like a natural, let me do that kind of thing. Eventually, I got a job as the aquatics director at the Jackson YMCA.
Okay.
And so that was my first like big boy job, I guess you could say, because I was in charge of, I don't even remember how many staff there, probably like 15 or 20 staff, in charge of orchestrating like the swim lessons, doing the lifeguard trainings and in-service trainings so they keep their skills up, all of that kind of stuff. And I was there for a couple of years. But again, like the pride thing was kind of like, well, like I'm really good at this job. Like I can do it. I don't really have to try. And in a lot of ways, sometimes things just seem to like happen pretty well in my life. And I was like, that will just like continue.
Sure. Yeah.
And so there was a time though where, like because of all of that, my attention to detail, my probably like interactions with coworkers and staff were starting to get affected by this also. And so I ended up like, I remember I hired somebody who had claimed that they were a lifeguard and certified. And we always did like a pre-hiring test. So like this girl had the skills, like she could do it, but she actually wasn't certified. And that came out a few weeks after she had been like on shifts
On
and
duty,
like being on the pool deck. And so we kind of rushed to like get her recertified, but then our director was like pulling me into the office,
You're accountable to that.
Yep. And writing me up going like, what's going on here? And I just kind of the way that she had handled that, she being my boss at the time, and then some of the other like environments there with other full-time coworkers, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I was like, I'm going to give you my 30-day notice. And at that time I was a lot of like, this is a toxic work environment, there's people talking behind my back, and like, this is not how things all went, like stuff like that. And failing to really take my part of it into account, like the stuff that I was contributing to that.
Sure. That's a good word, like contributing to it. Yeah.
So I do think like there was stuff there that has, like with a boss that every job since then, I've tried to make sure that people that I work for don't do those sort of things. And that's been a great lesson of working for somebody that I know wants to see me succeed and wants the best for what we're doing, like all of those kind of things. But it was really like, hey, now I don't have a job again. What am I going to do? And there was a moment in this whole time where I'm kind of like just maybe emotionally or spiritually like wandering a little bit. I'm like, I have a degree in the Bible. I've been in church my whole life. Like, why am I working at the YMCA? And so I'd started going back to the same church that I grew up in, but now in their like young adult college
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
like what we would call collective
Sure.
care at Grace.
Yeah.
And the guy
Were you involved in a church in all that time between all of that?
yes and no. I would still go to that church that I grew up in, but not nearly as frequently.
Right. Not like a
Yeah.
deep member that was letting
Right.
it impact. Okay.
Yeah.
Not
And there was a
community.
time I was when I was working at the Y, I was dating a girl that went to another Assemblies of God church, and so I would go with her. But then there was like times where I'd have to open the pool at like 5 a.m. and so I'd just like be tired and like
Yeah.
not want to do it and be like, I'm not going. So was doing more regular times at this young adult ministry because it was like midweek. And the guy that was leading that was good friends with another pastor up in Stowe. And I started like talking with him and processing with the group leader, not with the pastor, about feeling like maybe I need to like actually be in ministry, like actually do something with this degree that I have.
Yeah. Did you
that'll
go
be a
into that
theme, too.
degree thinking you were more scholarly, like you said, heady stuff versus
Yeah.
like relational
Right.
stuff? Like, is that where the trajectory you thought you would be?
Kind of, yeah. So we'll probably get to this in a little bit, but like I actually like deep down knew from a young age that I was called to be a missionary. And in some ways, going and getting like a Bible degree was me like halfway doing that, but also like I'm not sure I want to do that. And, like maybe I will just like study languages or whatever else with that religious studies degree. Maybe I'll teach it, like I'll become a doctorate in it, and like
Nice and safe
teach it.
and comfy in my
Right.
office in
Yeah.
my auditorium
Yep.
speech area. Yeah.
So when I was feeling like this, like later on, I never really had wanted to be a pastor because I've seen that. I've of course been around church a long time. I know kind of what that job entails. It's not a 9 to 5, and it's a lot of serving and
Sacrifice,
sacrifice.
putting others before
Yep.
self.
And it's not that I've ever been unwilling to do that. It wasn't like exciting me, I guess, or like I didn't feel called at that time to do that sort of thing. But now suddenly I'm feeling like maybe that God is, and that I need to be doing this, and youth is a good spot to do it. So as I'm processing this with our young adults leader, he's like, well, my pastor friend in Stowe, he's got an opening for a youth pastor, and it would be part-time, but, can I, like, give him your number? Like, can I, like, foster that introduction? I'm like, you know what? Sure. Yeah, let's do it. So that actually ended up working out. He hired me to be the youth pastor at a small church in Stowe. I ended up getting a apartment literally across the street from the church.
Okay.
And had an absolute blast. Like, it was the first time that I was preaching regularly, like every Wednesday night
To the students.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the group started to grow. We got up to maybe 50 or so students on a regular basis at sometimes, and it was really, really cool. Like, I still have good relationships with some of those kids who now have like their own families and their
Yeah.
own kids, like it was just a cool time of God kind of showing me like almost like what the reward of ministry can be. Like the hard work, the sacrifice is all there, but like look at the spiritual investment and the return.
Yeah. The fruit, literally.
Yeah, the fruit from that. And I was there for like 4.5 years, where in a position where a lot of youth pastors are only there for a few months.
Wow. Okay.
And it was cool. And that's at the time when I started reconnecting with Stephanie over Facebook, and then
Classic.
we started doing long distance because she was in Chicago at the time, and now I'm starting to be like, well, this part-time job, like it's not paying the bills, and I'm like, I'm dating this girl, I like her. Getting to Chicago is expensive though. Weddings are pricey. And so I'm praying like, man, God, I really need a job. And so I started talking with my pastor at that time. And I remember we sat down on a Friday afternoon and we prayed about it. On a Monday morning, I get a call from the Green YMCA from the director. And they had been talking to me like over the last couple of weeks about some people that worked for me at the Jackson Y that were applying for their aquatics director position. And I was given like, your standard reviews of like, yes, they worked for me for this time and, whatever. But she calls me up and she's like, we've been talking to all of these people about this position. We're like, why don't we just talk to Paul about it? And she's like, are you open to discussing this?
Yeah.
I was like, well, yes.
Actually, you've answered my prayer.
Right. Like literally the next time that you could have called me after we prayed, I hadn't had a chance to even apply yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew the job was there, but I wasn't even thinking about that. And God just kind of like
Providence.
brought it. Yep.
Yeah.
And so then at that point I was like, I'm treating this job as a gift, and I'm going to, work as hard at it as I can. I'm going to learn from what happened before.
Steward it. Steward the gift. Yeah.
Be sacrificial where I can, be humble about it. And so then I worked there and at the church. And I in a lot of ways, I think God rewarded that attitude. Because there are a lot of people that I'm still like friends with that worked for me. So now I was in charge of like 55 staff and more programs and a swim team and like all of these different.
That doesn't feel part-time to me.
Right.
Wow.
So God like brought that along and really kind of started showing me then like that there can be real tangible answers to prayer. And even though like I'd grown up in church and like been saved from a young age, learning how to pray and learning that God hears and answers prayer is something I think that we go through our whole life. And that was one of the first big steps of God like showing me that, I think. Then, while we were, we got married during that time, and
She made the big trip from Chicago to
over here,
married in Ohio.
I think it was like she came 2 weeks before the wedding. She stayed with some friends for that time until we then left for our honeymoon. There were people in our church that had a timeshare, and they had decided that they were going to gift a week to each of the pastors at the church.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I'm going to hang on to mine.
Yeah.
Because I know like we're going to be married soon. Maybe we can use that as a...
Wow.
So that enabled us to go to Aruba.
Whoa, that's quite the timeshare. I was thinking like Myrtle Beach.
No, yeah. Well, we could have picked a lot of different places.
Okay. It's
Hawaii,
like a network.
and
Whoa.
Aruba were our two top choices.
Heyo.
Yeah. At that time, Stephanie had been to almost all of the lower 48 states, but not Alaska and Hawaii. And so we were considering Hawaii for that so that she could mark that off. But then we thought, when are we ever going to decide to go to Aruba?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the Beach Boys sing about it. It's like the classic Aruba.
So we picked there and went. And then like not long... I don't remember the exact timing, not long after or like during all of, I think it was actually just before, the pastor at that church confessed to having a relationship with the secretary. So almost like as cliche as you can get.
Whoa, okay.
But he came forward, and also that like they they hadn't like gone all the way, so to speak, but
Okay.
he was like, this is definitely like an emotional affair. We kissed one time and I know it's wrong, and you know, I got to resign, and like all of this
Work
stuff.
through
So,
all of it.
yep.
Yeah.
So being the youth pastor there, like that was brought to us, like the staff and like the board a little bit before the congregation heard it, but that, you know, that like blows up a church.
Sure,
And
yeah.
like here I am like about to get married, and like, geez,
Right.
you know, like that's those kind of thoughts, like
Those foundational pieces are rattled a little.
Yeah.
Like what you think is true. And
so through that we had like some interim pastors there, and some of that was like pretty hard because I was letting my pride like come back in. Like, I'm a great youth pastor. Like, look what I've done with these kids. Look at how it's grown. Like, I think I would be a great senior pastor. And so now there's some of these like older guys that have a lot of wisdom, a lot of humility, and have been doing this for a long time, are trying to like speak into my life, and I'm resisting that. You know, I'm letting that pride still, like, I know better. Like, like how ridiculous. Like, guy's been in ministry for 40 years. Like, you know better than that, dude? No. So we were butting heads there, and there was another spot where like I had to like know or learn or remember that it's not like one time and this is done. You know, like you don't just have one experience about dealing with this core
Stronghold,
issue
yeah.
and then have it disappear.
Sure.
It's an ongoing battle and a struggle.
Amen. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, so I was like going to be considered for the senior pastor position. There was an interim pastor there who we absolutely loved, and are still friends with. We went to their house a couple of months ago, and he's just so great. And what they ended up wanting to do was him sort of like train me a little bit more for maybe up to 2 years, like 18 months, 2 years, something. And then they would kind of hold a vote of like, okay, is Paul ready to be a senior pastor? So that time came, and there was a lot of stuff I think that the board was still like sort of bringing up that we had addressed before, and that things that didn't matter, like like some of your youth kids felt like you were pressuring them to come to church. Like, why didn't you have a better relationship with them or whatever? And I'm like, I feel a youth pastor should be encouraging the students to come to church.
Tell me what I'm doing wrong here.
Right. And things that just, we still see you as like the quirky, like fun youth pastor, and how are you going to be serious? And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I've like preached on Sunday mornings seriously, you know, like I handled some like building emergencies at the church. Why is this still stuff that's coming up? And we felt like if all of these things are still an issue, this isn't like the right spot. Like God doesn't feel like God's telling me to do this anyway.
Right.
Using it as a, this isn't my next step for
Like
you.
closing the door. Like
Right.
that's the prayer. Like open every door if this is the right way. And it's like, oh, I don't feel that like that's happening.
Exactly. And that was pretty hard because, like I've said, like my pride was like taking that hit of, well, it's not God saying no, it's them not wanting me or like saying I'm not good enough,
Okay.
you know, too.
Oh, that sounds like Satan.
Yeah.
Right?
You know,
Like
and
spiritual warfare. Like he could write that script.
Yep.
God does not talk that way.
Yeah. And that's not like, it's not saying that God's not using that experience, but it's just like those lies and the stuff going through your head. And even through that, like God can still and did still like speak truth to that of like your pride is something that needs always addressed. And if you're not like continually submitting that to me, like it's still going to be problematic. And so like we really felt like, gosh, ministry is rough, you know, or like maybe we need to sort of take a break from this for a little while. And that's when we actually found grace. Well, actually, no, sorry, not yet. So we ended up, the pastor that had the moral failure spent a couple of years rehabilitating, I guess. Him and his wife never divorced. They worked it out. They're still married to this day. But he went through all the program, was like reinstated as a pastor, and wanted to plant a church in Ellet.
Wow.
A little bit down the road from where Pastor Ryan is now with Akron East. And so he asked us to be a part of that, and we said yes.
Wow.
And so then I started being like the worship pastor or like associate pastor for this new church.
You were there, Ezra.
Yeah, though not nearly as good. And that was hard because we were in a elementary school in their cafeteria with a stage. So all of the church stuff was in a trailer. We'd have to get there early to set everything up before we could even have band rehearsal. And a lot of times it felt that, especially as we were getting like year 1, year 2 into this thing, that we were doing a lot of work, and there was more people coming to church to be the volunteers and put on church than there were people coming to church.
Okay.
And Stephanie was like in the kids program, like running that up, and so she was never in service.
Yeah.
We were doing all this setup and then all this tear down, and it felt just like, what are we doing?
Very heavy labor of love, but still a labor.
Right. And during that time is when we ended up finding Grace, because we started going to Grace on Saturday nights because we were like, we're working so hard on Sunday mornings that we need to have some sort of spiritual
Respite.
food and respite. Yeah. And still probably a lot of that, the hurt and the pain from the previous church, like we never really addressed that or worked through it or sat down and like had a season of prayer and grieving or, you know, all that kind of stuff to work on that. So after about 3 years, we decided that we weren't going to be a part of the church plant anymore, and we started going to Grace all the time. And we probably took, I don't know, 6 months maybe of just kind of being here. You know, we super loved it, and then we decided it was time to take Discovery and Shape.
Yeah.
Pastor Joe actually did our Shape connection.
Oh, he did the connection.
He did, yeah.
Wow.
Well, he did mine anyway.
Okay.
And at that time, Joe was in the like give it away pastor role. And so I remember there was a question on the Shape of like something like, if you could do anything for God, what would it be? Like you knew,
If
like
you would succeed. Yeah, you knew it. There was,
And my answer was I would smuggle Bibles into a closed country.
Whoa.
And Joe read that and he goes, that's not normal.
We should talk more
Right,
about this. Yeah, the give it away pastor in charge of global missions.
Yes. And like, to me, that's like, it's like an adventure. It's, you know, doing something for Christ, for the kingdom, but something that's almost like spy-like. I super love James Bond.
Okay.
You know, and so in my head, it's like, let's just marry those two things.
Yeah, scratches a couple itches for you.
Right. So he actually plugged us into the global directions team at that point, and both Stephanie and I kind of stepped in to that, and we felt a little bit like imposters because we had been on a lot of missions trips throughout our lives, both individually, one together with our youth group, but we were on this team that now kind of talked about and brainstormed through like global partnerships and give it away, go teams, and had never been on a trip with Grace.
And I also just want to pause and think about, what did you call it? The global direction
Directions team. Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever heard those words put together before, and I've been at Grace for so long, but just to know that there is a core group of people that are drawn together to be directionally, like, hearing from God on what we should do as a church.
Yeah.
I know the Guatemalan experience is like a newer one that I'm guessing was prayed over, researched over, experienced in advance before bringing it to the church.
Yeah.
And that's just
By
like a
that
new
team,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a new way to think about our entire global missions mindset and experiences here, because people could go to this church and never think about missions and global, like it's mentioned every now and then, there's pictures on a wall somewhere, but just to know that there's people directionally considering what we should do as a church is really interesting.
Yeah, and it was nice to be a part of that because we felt that God had some sort of missions call on our life, whether or not we were like fully pursuing it at that time. And so being able to like contribute in that way was really cool. And that's actually how you mentioned Guatemala. Like we were part of that discussion to like, hey, we want to start a new partnership. Here's some options. What do we think are the best? Like what kind of fits with Grace's values? And so that team would have like prayed about that, kind of researched that, and like had some recommendations. And not any like it's not like, well, what this team decides is what happens, but it's like that brainstorming and just like the council of people to help flesh out like what might God be leading the church to next in this area. And it turned out that we did pick Food for the Hungry in Chell, Guatemala. And so even at that time, we had not yet gone on a trip with Grace. But we were getting more involved. I had joined the safety team. Stephanie became a Shape connector. And I got involved in game day as a basketball coach even before we had kids. And we ended up being in Pastor Joe's life group for a while. And then through the life group, we were like, let's all go on a missions trip. And so
that's so special. Yeah,
we decided that we opened it up to the whole life group, and it ended up being like I think 7 people wanted to go, and we picked Chell to go to, and Joe ended up asking me to lead it, and I was kind of blown away by that because I'm like, you're the give it away pastor. You've been on dozens of trips, but you want to trust me with this. And in some ways I was like, well, this will also kind of be easy because if I have any issues, I can just ask Joe.
Because he was going on the trip
he
as
was
well.
Going on the trip too, yeah.
Hey, buddy.
But that was really cool. And we actually got stuck in a protest in Guatemala. They were closing their streets. The people that we would think of as like taxi drivers, like public transportation, they were protesting the government's lack of road repair programs and initiatives. So the way they did that was shut down entire cities.
Oh boy!
So we couldn't get to the airport.
On the way home, or
yeah, it was on the way back.
Whoa!
And I remember Joe just sitting in the bus. He's just kind of chilling, and the rest of us are freaking out, man. We're like, are we gonna get home?
Yeah.
And he's like, guys,
eventually.
I've been in some of these that have been way worse.
Yeah.
This is not even violent. They're just blocking the road. And that was a cool little lesson too, for me. But we came home from that trip then feeling like God was stirring something in us, and I say us, Stephanie and I, we hadn't really talked about it too much to that point. We now had Jack, and it was just like God kind of planting some seeds, starting to work. And eventually, we were like, we want to go to Guatemala again. So we started planning another trip, and that was the first medical missions trip to Chell, and that was in 2024. And while we were kind of planning that and starting to lead it, really starting to feel like unsettled in my job. I was leading a team of computer programmers at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Oh, that's a shift.
Yeah.
From what we last talked about career-wise.
I'd always been involved in technology, loved computers. At the University of Akron, I took computer science classes. I didn't continue that at Evangel. I'd built websites almost at every job I'd been at, until that time. And so I was like, hey, I've been doing this on the side. Let me make it my career. So I was doing that. Great job, paid well, gave me the flexibility to, not miss things with Jack, to go on missions trips. It was very 9 to 5. So I was able to even sometimes not 9 to 5 in the sense that it was less than that. So, good work-life balance, great job. But I was feeling like a lack of purpose. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm working for a car parts store. Like, I don't believe in car parts. Like, I'm not a car guy. I'm not excited about selling car parts. And again, I'm feeling, I have my degree's in the Bible. I've been in church my whole life. Like, I was a pastor, and like, why am I not doing that? Like why? What are you doing with your life? And so I had a conversation with Joe, and I was like, this is how I'm feeling. I don't know if like I'm supposed to like step into another like ministry role, whether that's here at Grace or, at another like church, or like, I don't know what this is feeling like, but I know like my current job is not, like, I'm feeling unsettled, And he was like, why don't you like, let's start leading the life group, like, and we'll pursue some of these things and, see where God leads and works and stuff. And so like we birthed the life group out of Joe's group. And we went to Guatemala a second time, where they asked me to preach in Guatemala for the church.
In all of your language studies, has there been a Spanish experience for you? Okay. Just Hebrew and ancient Greek and all that kind of stuff.
I did take a year of German at the University of Akron for whatever reason. And I had on my own kind of done some introductory studies with Mandarin, Chinese. But I've never really like become fluent in anything. You can't really in biblical Hebrew because nobody actually knows how to say it anymore. But it's always been like a goal of mine. Like, I've always wanted to become fluent. And previously I was like, I'm not studying Spanish because it's too easy. Like, man, how stupid of a take can you really have there? But yeah, so they asked me to preach in Guatemala. Of course, I had a translator, and I remember like being pretty nervous. I've never like I'd done a decent amount of preaching, but never in a cross-cultural setting, never with a translator, never really without being able to like type on my laptop to do my notes. And so here I am, like pretty nervous to do this, and I'm like sitting there trying to like pep talk myself, like pump myself up or, like get ready for it or whatever. And I remember thinking like, you were born for this. And at the time I was like, like it's just a pep talk, like I'm ready, like I was born ready, like all this kind of stuff. And we, at the end of every day on that trip, like I asked the questions of the team, like, where did you see God show up? Like, where did you hear him? And let's just talk about those kind of no-brainer moments or things that God brought into your life. And as I was like listening to the team talk about their day, I was thinking like, where have I seen God show up today? And I was like, I don't know that I did. Like, where where have I seen him? Because at this point I'm thinking like, this is my second time to Guatemala. Like I know kind of the flow of things and how it goes. And so like all of the logistics and things have gone pretty well so far. And like, it's almost just kind of been like me. And then I thought like, no, like I was kind of born for this cross-cultural stuff. Like that wasn't me pumping myself up. That was like God giving a bigger view, not just for that moment, but like confirming for me that like no, missions is where I'm supposed to be. And I didn't share that with the team there at that time. Because we were also like already planning. No, that was later. Getting my timeline mixed up. Before that trip, we went to Mazatlan, and like we'd had a conversation with Joe of like, okay, we are feeling like maybe missions is the next step, but we don't really know where or how. Guatemala we love, but we don't see like a path. And he's like, have you talked? Do you know about Shoulder to Shoulder? Have you been there? We're like, we know they're there, but we've never been to Mexico.
Yeah.
So he's like, let's go.
Classic Joe.
Yeah. So he took us down on a 4-day vision trip. And like I came back from that trip not really feeling like that's like what like God had for us.
Okay.
Stephanie was like, I'm probably going to move here. And so then it took like getting to Guatemala and like kind of hearing that from God of like, actually, yes.
I
like
created you for this.
Yeah, this is where I want you to be next. And so that's kind of cool how God used like different experiences and trips in like completely different country and culture. And even though the language is, the same, to kind of like push us that's the next step. So then we came back from that trip also feeling like we're going to go to Guatemala as often as we can. But then also we've got this other new thing happening. And so Shoulder to Shoulder wanted us to come down on short-term trips to see it a little bit more. So I went with the men from Bath to Mazatlan, and we helped build a church. We actually were redoing parts of the foundation. We didn't get to everything that we really wanted to, and so we had dug a hole on one side of the church for a more reinforced foundation, but we had to leave it just with a footer poured in there. And that trip was amazing. Developed some really good relationships there. Pastor John Bowen actually was on the trip too. So got to process some more with him and just the team at large, the team at STS, and see like what God is doing and what God has. We actually left that hole and it was there until Stephanie came back with student ministries in the summer and she filled it in. So we had a fun little connection there with that little church.
That's cool.
Yeah. So probably like after I came back from that men's trip, I was then much more on the like Mazatlan is it.
Okay. What month was that, if you recall?
That was January, February. It was over the Super Bowl the week. We actually watched the Super Bowl in February in Mazatlan with the guys.
Okay. And of this year, of 2025.
Yeah, of 25. But we were still like wanting to go a couple more times to see, and we don't really have like a good trip for couples to go to Maz. We've got a men's trip, a women's trip, and then it's like collective and students and stuff. So we started planning like Stephanie would go with the students as a chaperone, but then the team at STS invited us to come to their retreat in April. So all three of us, me, Stephanie, and Jack, went in April. Jack got to see Mexico. Loved it. Thinks he's going to move to Mexico and swim every single day because that's what he did for that week.
Wow.
And by that time, we were really starting like to really think and process through just the logistics, the steps, the things that we would have to do if we were going to make this a reality. What would our timeline be? How would all of this play out? And I was thinking at that time that we would maybe leave for language school in August of 2026, be there for a year, then move to Mexico. And I'm thinking through this and going like, man, I'm really feeling like God is calling us. Like we really believe in the vision of STS of equipping pastors and their churches so that they can go and reach their communities. But like almost 2.5 years until we can do that, that feels like so long. And like you catch this vision and you're excited and you want to do it.
Yeah,
and like,
let's go.
Yeah, but that's so long. And we had known who Ben and Tanya Falkenberg were through like our global team. And then like being down there a couple of times, like getting to know Ben a little bit more. And they've been great in sharing like their entire experience of being sent as missionaries from Grace and helped us a ton.
And if you're listening to this podcast, Ben and Tanya have been interviewed on it. In fact, Ben is the originator of Unscripted. He started it years and years ago. And so he has his story kind of shared in this podcast as well. So you can listen to their story too.
And they've just been open books about this whole, like the hard parts, the joys, the do things better than we did.
Sure.
Or, you know, but here's some frameworks of how we actually did it to get you started. Just absolutely fantastic. And so in April, I was complaining a bit to him on a Tuesday afternoon of like how long this timeline was going to be. And he was, you know, talking about how, you know, STS is there for the long term.
Yeah.
Like we're not going anywhere.
The process,
like, just, you know, be patient, rest on God, like pray for his timing, that kind of stuff. And then Wednesday morning, less than a day later, I got a call from O'Reilly that I was laid off. So for the second time in my life, I get laid off. Now, this time though, it was from a great job that paid really well. It was a job I was planning to leave by that point anyway. But I'm in Mexico with missionaries, planning to be a missionary, and God's like,
your job is taken from you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we really started thinking like maybe what that is a blessing of God preparing the way for us to leave earlier. And we had said, well, we're not going to make any big decisions this week because like all of these emotions and like all the
There's
rawness.
a lot of high life happening here. Yeah.
But we did start, you know, really processing through that and praying a ton after we got home in May. I did say, well, hey, we can still stick to the timeline. I could find a job for a year and then, you know, we can prepare to leave well and that kind of stuff. And so I ended up interviewing with 6 different companies, multiple round interviews, and tech jobs right now are rough with like AI and just a lot of like layoffs from big companies. So even to land 6 interviews, I feel was not normal. Like those interviews were at places that I would have liked to work. And like I said, like getting into the later rounds of all of those companies, and every single one of them went with someone else. And so again, that was like another check to my pride of like, hey, like you're not good enough for this, you know, and like some of that like hurt until I realized like all of those are lies. Like, yes, I'm not great. I'm not, you know, the best, and there's no reason to be proud about it, but also like still find your worth in something else, like in Jesus, not in whether you have a tech job or not. But by the end of that process, it was like, well, if God wanted us to be here for another year, he could have had one of those jobs
Funded it.
come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy peasy. And so I was like, well, God must want us to go sooner than that. So we kind of took that as a sign that January of 2026 was now our new timeline. Going to language school, being there for a year.
And right now, as we talk, it's November of 2026. So that's, or
25.
25.
Yep.
So that is
it's in
soon.
a couple of months. Yeah.
Soon.
Yep. And so we said, well, we got to get going. Like, we need to support raise and get logistics in place. We got to sell the house, all of these things. And so we got rolling on it. And Stephanie might have mentioned it, but like when she was on her trip with Student Ministries, Rachel Reeser, John and Rachel Reeser direct shoulder to shoulder. They had a conversation, and Rachel was like, listen, very few couples have as much confirmation that they're supposed to do this as you have gotten. So, like, what are you waiting for? Kind of thing. And we really started finding that, like, God having me laid off was such a big blessing because I could file for unemployment, but then have the time to do, like, all of the appointments necessary to raise our support team, to handle, like, all of the different logistical stuff, like, during the day that we would need. Even, like, being able to declutter, clean the house, get stuff to donation, like, all of that kind of stuff would have been extremely hard with a full-time job as well. And so, like, that's one of the things that, like, God turned a situation for good that I would not have even known beforehand, where he used something in a way that, like, just kind of, like, blew our minds.
Yeah. I often
through
think
that.
about, like, the definition of good. Like, oh, got a great job, that's good. Oh, but that job was actually potentially toxic or what have you, like, took pride. Like, it actually gave you pride.
Right.
Or I lost my job, that's bad. Is it? Like, in God's eternal perspective, that's actually good. Like, his definition of good, I always think about
exactly.
that compared to mine.
For sure. Yeah, and sometimes we don't see that in the moment, and it takes looking back at the little moments that God's been faithful and, like, using situations and circumstances to make it good, to be able to see that. And then that also helps for, like, the next situation to know that, like, God had that in control. Like, he used that layoff or that hard situation for good. I can look back and see how, and now when I'm faced with this other hard thing, I know that he's going to do the same thing.
Yes, he's good and I've witnessed it.
Yep.
He's faithful, I've witnessed it, and I promise he'll do it again and again.
Yes. It's that faith building, for
Yes.
sure. And so we jumped into this, and some people were saying, like, well, it can take like 2 years to raise support as a missionary. We're like, we're going in January.
Let's go, God.
Yep. We had one of our initial conversations, we were talking about, like, where we're going is, Mazatlan with shoulder to shoulder. They asked questions about, like, how much we were raising, and they were like, ooh, can you go somewhere else in Mexico that's cheaper? Like it costs a lot to live in this town and like to do ministry there. And we're like, this is what other missionaries have, like what they've raised, and we feel like this is what God, has for us, and we're trusting him to bring it in. And they're just like, what? Okay. And so we're thinking, like, is this going to be a problem? Like, we've got we've got like 3 months here that we're raising our support, and we really had to be like, consciously know we're trusting God. This is what he's called us to. He's going to take care of it, because look how he's taken care of it so far. And there was a time in there where we were pretty down with like how the numbers were playing out. And I sat down with Pastor Joe, and I was like, I don't know if I know enough people. Like, I don't know like how this is going to work. And he said some version of like, if we could plan it all in a spreadsheet, what do we need God for?
Amen.
And I was like, that's right. Yeah, for sure. And so we had an experience in there where there was a day where it was very like down because like the numbers didn't seem to work. We were doing like a presentation that we were sure like we were going to get some good support out of it. And we got zero support out of it. And it was probably the only time in my life so far, I say so far because it probably will happen again, that I felt like it was like spiritual warfare in the sense of after that presentation, both Stephanie and I just felt like such anxiety and just like such, I don't want to say like oppression, but it was like this is not going to happen. Like if that didn't come through, like you're not going to make it.
That's when God does the good stuff, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
When we're at the end of ourselves and we're surrendered and we know we can't do it on our own.
Right. And it's praying a prayer like that needs God to show up.
Yes.
Not just like, God help me with this or God like bless my food or whatever, but it's like, this is a prayer that we will be able to say, this is specifically how God answered it.
I need you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen without God answering.
Supernatural, divine intervention.
And he answered that. And like literally the next day, the numbers were completely different. I don't know how. And we were like, if this kind of plays out this way, like God's providing it. And ridiculously, we were doing these appointments for 2 months, and God brought us to 90% of our funding in those like 7 to 8 weeks. And we talked to some people, and they're like, "That's not normal." Like, God did that. Missionaries have to support raise for months and months and months in a lot of cases. And like to be that far along after that amount of time is just another, like, we were joking, God's like kicking us out. And all of our friends are like, yes, please go, please here's some money, just like, but it has been another thing of like, absolutely, this is what God wants. Like, how could you doubt?
Amen. Yeah.
Like, how could you sit there and go, should I be a missionary in Mexico? Should I go right now? Like, when all of these things have happened, it's the literal definition of a no-brainer. And yeah, I mean, that's where we're at now. We've ended up selling the house in a day. The realtor said, hey, this could take 30 days. It was literally the first people that wanted to see it.
Wow.
And, that just the whole process of like watching God take care of even details, to like confirm with us that like 1,000%, God is in this. And like, I have times where I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't understand how hard it's going to be. And I don't know what difference I can make. But I know that God wants me to go do it. There's just nothing else that I can do now,
Yeah. And it's only the beginning.
Right?
Barely even that.
Yeah. Not even in language school yet.
Right, exactly.
So.
Wow. Well, I feel like it's been a series of dangerous prayers, like that prayer with Ben back in the spring where you're like, I don't know how like we could accelerate this. Well, the next morning you get the phone call and it's just a continual refinement and a working out of our own selves getting in our own ways repeatedly.
Yep.
And the voice of God speaking through people around you, from the band to Pastor Joe, he's speaking over you like,
Right.
okay, then, the ways that they spoke into you, like through God's just
Providence and
exactly.
sovereignty. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you just said it, like, how could you doubt that then?
Right.
So every trial you hit, it's going to be hard. Talk to Ben. I mean, you've talked to Ben. It's going to be real hard. Listen to his episode.
Yeah.
You don't even need to. But you'll be able to, at least once you're through the emotional part of those things, you can remember.
Yep.
Remember. I feel like in the Old Testament, it's like, remember, like, God, help me to remember how you provided for my ancestors. Help me remember how you parted the Red Sea and all those things.
Yep. And I'm looking forward to how he does that in the future too. Like, this is just the beginning, and he's been so faithful and like really showing us his heart in all of that, so that we can face like what's next. And then we're just going to have another version of this at different locations, different situations, but it's going to be tough, and God's going to show up, and it's just going to like build and build and build. And if that is the only thing that ever comes from it, of us being able to say, God was faithful in these times, and he can be faithful for you too, if that's the only thing, then it's worth it.
And as you show that to Jack, 40 years from now, he'll be sitting in a chair like this telling somebody a story about his crazy parents that took him to Mexico and how he thought he was going to swim every day, but it actually, it was something completely different, but it was good.
Yeah. And that's unbelievable. I mean, that's like just thinking about all the ways that God could use this whole situation, like imagining or dreaming. Like, of course, probably none of that is going to be the case, and God is going to do even greater than we can completely imagine. But just thinking through of like how cool some of this stuff can be, kind of, it blows my mind. Yeah.
Well, since you have a history of being in a band, you're a musician, you've been a worship leader, and all of these things you've just shared with us about our experience, I'm very curious to hear what you'd like to add to the unscripted worship playlist. For those listening, if you go to Spotify, you can look up Unscripted Worship, and we have a collection of songs that go with the stories. So do you have a song prepared to add to the unscripted playlist?
The last, couple of years, I've really liked Son of Suffering. And I can't recall who it's by at the moment. But it's
by the Grace Church Band in my mind. I just always hear that version. When I hear it on the radio, I'm like, why does this sound so weird?
Yeah, I love the way we do it here at Grace. But the message of that song, of that, like, a God who weeps, a God who bleeds, like, what other God does that? No other God cares enough or loves enough to sacrifice his own flesh and blood for us. And then kind of like the second half of that song is just all about all praise King Jesus. Like, he's the one that did it. He's worthy of all of that praise. And so it's to me, it's fantastic, because not only is God like sacrificed for us, but he's here in our suffering too. He's here in the hard parts, working things for our good and worthy for the praise, regardless, whether we can see it at the moment or not. I love that song. Sometimes I play it to myself on the guitar.
Well, and I'm thinking of the drums at that end part, like when doon, glory to God forever. Like, that's a powerful one, because it does crescendo and really like kind of stirs your soul
for sure
as you experience it. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for everything that you're about to do that we don't even know yet.
Thanks for having me. This has been a really fun time.
Yeah, I hope that even just putting this story into the sound waves that can be played and looked back to, 5, 10, 15 years later, be like, remember when I was afraid of this? Like, whoa, God, like, I see you. And for the people who are supporting you, the people that are praying for you, the people who do not yet even to know you, to have this recorded moment. You know, also in the Old Testament, like, you think about building the altar of remembrance. Like, let's like put it in stone to say, like, right here, God did a miracle, and we name it something accordingly, and then we move on and we keep going with God. But like, there's an altar, and I hope that that's what this is for you.
Yep, that place. Yep, for sure. And even for anybody who is contemplating or thinking about being a missionary or missions work, like, do it. Find those moments where God is speaking, where he's offering those altars of remembrance to how he's going to be faithful through it, and say yes, or in a word, go.
Yeah, like God told Abram to go, and he went.
Yep.
Like, that's the scripture. A couple words in between there, but ultimately that's
Right.
what happened. And he's our he's the father of our faith, and it's so good.
Yep.
Wonderful.
For sure.
Well, and good luck to you guys too.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
as you journey on, I'm looking forward to hearing updates as well. And also, actually, I want to mention this because Stephanie did say it, but the website that we can follow along your journey.
Yeah, and it kind of stems out of like my journey with being prideful and like the idea that I am not the reason for any of this, and to give like a representation and a remembrance of that. So our site is notthemainstage.com, because Jesus is the main stage. We're not. So you can go there, and there's a little bit about what we're doing, who we are, and there's a spot on there to even like drop us a note of encouragement, or people can just email Thompson's at notthemainstage.com, and we'll get that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing.